So the reality is that teacher pay sucks. There are never-ending to-do lists, and the profession is really under assault. So how can school and district leaders show teachers you have their backs? Welcome to another episode of the Mike the Principal podcast. We have not been on air for a little bit of time, so we had a little bit of break. We do have a side project called The Principal School, where you will find me and Josh Brothers talking school leadership as well. A little different format, but again, if you've not checked that out, I'll be sure to drop that in the show notes. But it's good to be back on the Mike the Principal podcast. We are here for a very exciting episode. This is episode 24. I've got your back. How we support teachers absolutely matters. So again, just want to thank you for listening. Please be sure to help support the work of the Mike the Principal podcast by just clicking that like and subscribe button. It is tremendously helpful. Be sure to share this podcast with any of your educator friends, whether they're in ed leadership or not. We believe that this podcast can be tremendously helpful for them. So be sure to share with your favorite educators. It certainly helps spread the word. So today we're talking about what school leaders can do and how we support and why that matters. Why does our support for teachers matter so much? And today we're going to talk about 3 things that educational leaders, school principals and school assistant principals, or things that folks at the district office can do to break down barriers and create a pathway so that their leaders in their school district can absolutely help support teachers any way that they possibly can. So these are action steps that really, to be honest with you, if you put them into play, can have an impact in your school building tomorrow. You know, if you've listened to Mike the Principal podcast for any duration whatsoever, you know that school culture is incredibly important to me and my work in the school development of school leaders. School culture is something that I think is so essential to moving any other work that happens in a school or district forward. So that's really important. The 3 things we're going to talk about today are really, they're actually very simple for you to implement and execute. The first one is to tell them that you have their backs and then show them that, right? So that's step 1. Tell them that you have their backs and show them that what you say, you actually mean. That's really important. The second thing that we're going to talk about today is taking everything that you possibly can off of the shoulders of teachers. Teachers are bearing the brunt of so much that is happening in schools and districts across the country that is just not purposeful, does not have a place in schools, is not aligned with future-ready learning, is not preparing students for what they need after graduation. And there are so many of these compliance items that are taking up so much of a teacher's day. So what can you do to take the things off of the shoulders of teachers? The third one is to support the hell out of them. If you say you're going to support your teachers, you need to make sure that every action that you implement in your school building shows them that you are there to support. You have to shift from an evaluation mindset to a support mindset. We're going to talk deeper about that. But if you do these 3 things, you will see what will happen, and you will see your culture begin to shift as you implement these three pieces that you can do to support your teachers in your building. So let's break down number 1. Tell them that you have their backs. It sounds super simple, right? Like the first thing you need to do is tell them. And you may be thinking like, Mike, I've told them, but like, I want you to really like reflect back. Have you actually told them out loud that you have their backs? Like if you stood up in front of your faculty and said that out loud, people assume sometimes that the actions that you've taken or the actions you feel that you've taken will absolutely show them that you support them. And that's not always the case. So my question and challenge to you is, have you said it out loud? If they've never heard you say it, they don't actually know that you have their backs. You have to be, this is an area where you have to be explicit about it. Like you have to go above and beyond. You cannot assume or operate in the world of assumptions that your teachers know that you support them and that you have their backs. It's absolutely not acceptable here. You need to actually go and you need to tell them and be explicit about it. And if you don't, a warning to you is that anytime the space is void of information, the school culture, it can become a monster. And what it will do is it will fill that vacuum. It will fill that void of space with other information that might not be what you want to really take hold in your school culture. So if you don't say those things out loud, that's why it's so important to actually say what you're going to do and then actually start to act on it, right? And then if you do these, if you put your actions where your words are and where your mouth is, you will start to see a shift begin in your school culture, I promise. Here's the thing, right? A faculty meeting is a great place to be super transparent with your staff and be explicit about how you're going to support them. And it also gives you an opportunity for everybody to hear the same message, right? So I would challenge you before the end of the school year to go ahead and do that. Number 2, take everything that you possibly can off their plates. Let me say that one more time, and let me say it nice and slow for all of my friends out there. Take everything that you possibly can off of their plates. Teachers are buried. There is an assault on the profession that is unlike any that I have seen in my 20 years in this industry. We have to do everything that we can. And it doesn't mean that you don't have expectations, right? It doesn't mean things are just willy-nilly. But you need to do your due diligence and make sure that everything that you are doing in your building has a purpose. And if it doesn't, you need to stop doing it. You've heard me say that. I have Instagram reels about that exact thing because it is so important. If you don't know the answer to why you're doing something, you have to stop doing it. And I want you to think about how you can frame that, right? So for example, grading was a great area where I wanted to do some reform efforts in my building around grading. Well, I wanted to ensure that I was telling my teachers, I wanted them to actually grade less. I wanted them to do more authentic assessment, but I wanted that authentic assessment to actually be graded less. So less frequency, going deeper with learning. Taking those things off of their plates. I do not want my teachers, and I had to tell them this, I did not want them going home with papers that they needed to red pen every night. So I had to tell them. It helped me in my professional learning with grading and assessment because people wanted to listen up a little bit more when I opened and I framed it with the idea that the learning from our grading, effective grading practice, professional learning, is going to help you grade less. More authenticity, less frequent assessments. So that's one way, right? The other piece is like, how many schools and districts right now in the country are requiring lesson plans? And I'm talking about written lesson plans or electronic lesson plans that are submitted to an administrative staff. Now, I've spent a lot of time in schools and districts, in a variety of different schools and districts across the country. And I know that a lot of schools still require, as a compliance item, the submission of lesson plans. Well, let me tell you this. We are in a world now, post-COVID, where most of our learning happens in some form of learning management system, right? We learn that during virtual learning. Why would we not devote our time and energy to helping teachers build incredible content within a learning management system and stop having them waste time on putting together a traditional lesson plan? I would rather see the actual learning activity happen in a learning management system and devote their time and energy so that they don't have to copy and paste from year to year on a template that needs to be submitted, where most oftentimes it is being checked off by someone not on an administrative or leadership team. And if you are devoting your time and energy to that as a school leader, we need to talk. So that's another way that we can limit that. What can you do with duties on your campus in terms of limiting the exposure to your instructional staff and how you schedule them? And then their planning time, leaving it alone. Make sure that there are absolutely no compliance items that you want from them that's happening during instructional planning time. These might seem like, yeah, that's super obvious, Mike. Thanks for sharing that. But I really want you to sit back and I want you to reflect with your leadership team. And I want you to actually go through each of these things that I've talked about. And I want you to actually tell me, are you doing that? Like, have you cleared the way and taken everything that you possibly can off of teachers' plates? The third thing is to absolutely support the hell out of your teachers in your building. They have to know, you have to make sure that they understand that when you come at things, that you are 100% doing so in support. It's so important to your culture, right? And only evaluate, like the people ask all the time, well, how can I do that, right? Like, how do I shift that? How do I show them that we support them? And what I had to do as a school leader was shift from a culture of evaluation to one of support, because evaluation is not a very supportive terminology. It doesn't come with the connotation of support. It comes with the connotation of, I gotcha. And that's not what we're looking to do, right? Instead, we need to make sure that we're building a culture of evaluation where our teachers feel supported, and the feedback that we provide them is not something we necessarily carry over to a ding on their evaluation. So many schools and so many districts have systems in place where teachers are scared to the life to get any feedback whatsoever. Well, how can I support the heck out of my teachers if I can't show them and provide them with feedback? The way I do that is to build an evaluative culture where they know and understand, and I've said out loud to them that I am here to build you up as a teacher. Sure, from time to time, we're absolutely going to have critical conversations, 100%. But I see you as an investment. My job here is to coach you to become an even stronger teacher, because that benefits me, right? What good is it if I have to hire a teacher and then let that teacher go the same school year or a month later? Like, what good is that? I need to pour everything that I possibly can into my teachers to help them grow. Sometimes, yes, that will be critical, but not a lot of the critical conversations I had in the building never showed up on evaluation, because I wanted to coach them and build them, let them make mistakes, experience failure, and then turn and talk about those specific instances where they could grow as a teacher. It really is a return on that investment, right? Like, I am looking for every teacher that's in my building, I'm looking for a return on that investment, but I need to do everything that I possibly can to support my investments and help them grow. And if you say that you're going to support teachers, you need to actually do it, right? You can't just go up and in all three of these things that I've outlined today, you can't just go and say that you're going to support and then do none of them. If it's just lip service, it will not matter. It will not improve your school culture, period. So in summary, the three things that we talked about on today's episode that you can go and implement with your leadership team tomorrow. Number one, tell them that you support them. Say what you do. Do what you say. 2, remove the nonsense that exists in your building. If it's about compliance and not about purpose, stop. 3, support the hell out of your teachers. Make sure that they understand that you are taking them and coming at them from an approach of feedback and support versus evaluation. You do those 3 things, you will see a movement in the culture that you're building on your campus. And they cost no money, and you can implement them starting tomorrow. As always, I appreciate you listening to Mike the Principal podcast. Be sure to click that like, that subscribe, and share button. It is incredibly helpful. It gets more listeners on this podcast, so be sure to spread the word with your favorite educator in your life. Until next time, see you later.